World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Pressbox Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Wednesday, July the 3rd, 2024. Welcome to the Philly Pressbox Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Cavs, Philly Tailgates, and the Edge of Philly Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. And Chet, the Phillies look like a MASH unit heading into July with series against the Cubs, Braves, and Dodgers. They have to hold the line. That's one thing for sure. Got a win last night that they really needed. The Sixers did a partial rebuild this week with a draft and free agency while locking up Tyrese Maxey. The Flyers made it official by signing Matvei Michkov. Then, Chet, we're exactly 3 weeks from the first Eagles preseason practice. We have plenty to talk about in Philly sports.
Yeah, lots to discuss, as always, Bill, with the Flyers and Sixers. The Phillies still have the best record in baseball, as you said. And, Bill, it is 4th of July Eve, also known as July 3rd. So we're going to get into the long holiday weekend with everybody right here with our show, and then you can just relax and take it easy for the next 4 days, hopefully.
Well, aren't they all holiday weekends for you now, pal?
Well,
happy
they are now.
Happy 1 week retirement anniversary.
I'm liking this retirement thing. I think it's going to work out.
Yeah. Well, all I know is what day was it? Monday. I get pictures in the middle of the afternoon of some guy that looked a lot like you holding up a beer saying, "I like this."
Yeah, and you also saw pictures of me reorganizing my T-shirt closet. We'll talk about that later. I have a little segment on that for you.
All right. Well, hey, we have a great guest tonight making a return visit to Philly Press Box Radio, and the Phillies' legendary PA announcer Dan Baker. He'll be joining us.
Yeah, Dan, whose voice is heard at all Phillies home games and introducing us at the top of our show every week, is making his 5th visit to our program. Always good to talk to him, so let's get it going.
Let's do it. Let's welcome Dan Baker back to Philly Press Box Radio. Dan, welcome.
Hi, Bill and Chet. And Chet, let me congratulate you on that $5 million buyout that enabled you to retire. And Bill and I are very happy for you.
You weren't supposed to spill the details, Dan. Come on. People are going to be hitting me up for money now. All right, Dan. Listen, welcome back. We love having you on here. I know you love your job as Phillies PA announcer. You've been doing it since 1972, but it's got to be particularly fun when the team is as good as it's been the last couple of years and the ballpark is packed. You were just talking about that before we went live, how much of a thrill it is for you. Tell everybody how much fun it is for you.
Well, Chet and Bill, I feel so fortunate to do this. To be able to work at something I've loved since I was a kid. Of course, at first, as a youngster growing up in Mount Ephraim, New Jersey, and playing Little League Baseball, Camden County Baseball, Garden State Baseball after that, I had visions of myself wearing the Phillies pinstripes. But most of us come to grips with reality sooner or later and realize that so few are gifted athletically, emotionally, to make that journey. But announcing is another vehicle that enables some of us to get there. And so being in that role, as you said, Chet, since 72, I've had a chance to introduce so many Phillies Wall of Famers, Hall of Famers, 2 World Series champions, 6 World Series altogether, 2 Major League Baseball All-Star games. And that's just the Phillies side of it, of course, which is the position for which I'm best known.
Hey, Dan, you mentioned 1972. This wasn't where I was going, but since you mentioned it,
Yes.
did anybody ever count up how many of those Michael Jack Schmidt 548 home runs you called?
You know, somebody probably has. There's a gentleman named Drew Davis, a baseball historian in Wilmington, Delaware. Great guy. And he's done research about me that I'm not aware of. Like he'll say, well, you know, you've introduced so many thousand batters, you know, in your career, or you've announced 86 Hall of Famers. And you know, I don't know the numbers, but Drew does, and you know, I'm flattered. One time he made up a big piece of art, and well, it was a big piece of art to me. He had all the names on there in alphabetical order that I introduced up until, like, I think 2022.
Wow.
And it, I mean, I have it. I'm sitting here in my den, but it's. I'm probably going to donate my memorabilia collection to my alma mater. In fact, that's what I intend to do, and we haven't yet made that arrangement. But I've spoken to the development office, the athletic department, the sports communication major, and the dean, and I've collected a lot of nice things over the years, but nobody sees it here, you know.
Yeah.
And so their thought and mine was that if they put up a display down there in one of the college buildings, whether it's where the campus radio station is, or whether it's a communications building, or the gym, along with other rowing graduates who've chosen this field, and there's several of us, it might serve as an inspiration to current undergraduates that, hey, look, people from your school have gone on to some degree of sportscasting success, so you can do it too. And then, you know, there'd be a lot of things, I'm sure, to display for the different ones of us. And, you know, if they ever think that they're not in the right place, Rowan does have an outstanding communication school. And it's, well, when I think back to how inexpensive it was when I went there from 64 through 68, I'm almost embarrassed to tell you how cheap it was. But talk about the bargain of a lifetime. I think the tuition, Bill and Chet, was $150 a semester. It costs more than that for books.
You're right.
You know, and what a bargain. And I went to Temple Graduate School, and although that was a little more expensive, it was another bargain and another great school. So, you know, young people that ask me about this business, you know, I encourage them, you know, to go to college, of course, and to network. But Chet, back to your question about what makes it so enjoyable for me to serve as the public address announcer for the Phillies. This is the team, Chet and Bill, that I've grown up loving since I was 7 and 8 years old. And just going to the ballpark, it was so exciting to me. At first, hoping that I could be a player, then realizing I wasn't good enough. Although it took me about 12 years to understand that. And but it was so exciting. All that green grass at Connie Mack Stadium, formerly Shibe Park, at 21st and Lehigh in North Philadelphia, which was 6 blocks from Baker Bowl, that of course was at Broad and Lehigh, and 15th and Huntington. It was in that block, bounded by those streets, and seeing those light standards as the typical way to get to Connie Mack Stadium was to take the subway, Broad Street subway, northbound to Lehigh, and then walk those last 6 blocks. Oh boy, it was just so exciting. And the baseball history that was there, of course, from a Phillies standpoint, the Whiz Kids, and it's hard to describe. There are people who are much better than me in terms of their writing ability to describe, the ambiance and the ballpark atmosphere. But for me, the sights, the sounds, the smells, the sausage sandwiches and hot dogs and Cracker Jack back in the day, all those kinds of things, and even the cigar smoke and stuff like that. It was a sensory overload, for me, and it just was so exciting. And being able to work, Bill and Jim, in an environment like that, it just gives me. I was excited the day that I walked in there. My coworkers would be the first to tell you I have the same schoolboyish enthusiasm, for the site, for my coworkers, for the manager, coaches, players, media. It's just a great place to be. And when I went through my health issues in 2020 is when I had my cancer surgery, when they removed a 5.5 centimeter squamous cell carcinoma from my right maxillary sinus. No small part of my recovery was the Phillies contacting me and telling me how much they wanted me back, and that they missed me and the fans missed me. And I only really missed the one season, 2020. And of course, that was the pandemic shortened year. It was only 60 games total, 30 home games. So it wasn't like a full regular season that I missed. And I did do one preseason game between the Phillies and Orioles at Citizens Bank Park that year, and 5 inter-squad games. But I don't count that as one of my 52 years. If I'm lucky enough to eventually outdistance the great Pat Piper of the Chicago Cubs, 59 years as the voice of Wrigley Field, or Bob Shepard, 57 years as the great voice of Yankee Stadium. I'm at 52. I'm only the third one who is, as far as I know, that has served 50 years or more as a Major League Baseball public address announcer. And Bob Shepard was 97 when he retired in 2007. So I'm just a kid at 77 here. So another 8 seasons and getting me up to 60, I would be the all-time leader in terms of longevity for Major League Baseball PA announcer. So,
and let me ask you about this year's Phillies team. This year's team is so much fun to watch. No wonder you're having a good time. And the real surprise has been the starting pitching, I think. And just this morning, we learned that the Phillies have yet another player of the month, or pitcher of the month in this case. Christopher Sanchez, how good has he been this season?
Oh, wow. His control has been phenomenal, and he's got a great changeup, as you're probably aware. And the Phillies acquired him from Tampa Bay for a minor league player a couple of years ago, and another minor league pitcher they acquired from Tampa Bay, Michael Mercado, as you know, started last night at Wrigley Field and won the game. 5 innings pitched, allowing only 1 run. I think gave up maybe 4 hits, but or it might have been only 2 hits.
2 hits, 2 walks.
Yep. Yeah, and he looked so poised. When he had some stuff out there, and a lot of things has gone right for the Phillies. The Phillies have had to overcome a lot of injuries this year. Harper and Schwarber, Realmuto are on the IL now. Trey Turner missed 6 weeks with a hamstring problem. That's Bryce Harper's issue now. And yet they still are finding ways to win. They have the best record in Major League Baseball. There it is, 27 games over 500 at 56-29, and a 9-game lead over the Braves. And I think they have a heck of a chance. I thought they had a heck of a chance to go all the way last year. In fact, I thought the path was right there before us, leading in the NLCS. They won it, of course, in over the Padres in 2022 on that great Bryce Harper home run at Citizens Bank Park. And I thought last year there was no way that Arizona could come back and win a game at Citizens Bank Park, let alone 2. They needed 2 wins. But give the Diamondbacks credit. They got hot at the right time. They pitched very well. And I think the Phils were pressing a little bit in those last 2 games. They're really competitive. They so much wanted to win. And I think part of their motivation for excelling so much in 2024 is the disappointment of last year's postseason.
Oh, yeah. Well, Dan, 56 wins, as we said. The Phillies' record is 102. What's the chances that you see of them breaking that 102 mark?
I think they are. And the Phillies have won 100 or more games 3 years in their 142-year history. I was lucky enough to announce all 3 of those years, 1976, 1977, and 2011. And I said to some family members and friends before the year started, I thought we were going to win 103. And I'm going to stick with that. Now, even though we're on pace to win like 108 or 110 or 112 or whatever it is, I don't see us doing that. That's really an accomplishment to win that many games with that high of a winning percentage. But 103 isn't bad. And I just want them to save something for that postseason. Look what happened to the Atlanta Braves last year. They won the National League East by 14 games over the Phils. And we just took a look at that 9-game lead the Phillies have on the Braves this year. And yet, in the last 2 postseasons, the Phillies have defeated the NL East champion Braves. And so, once again, like we were saying before, getting to the postseason guarantees nothing. You've got to get there and perform well and hope to bring it home.
Hey, Dan, I'm going to post a question here from one of our viewers. And 52 years, this is a tough question to answer. What is your favorite memory of being the Phil's stadium announcer?
At Veterans Stadium was 1980 when we won the World Series, and at Citizens Bank Park it was 2008 when we won the World Series.
Of course.
There you
Yeah,
go. Hey, Dan, I have a question for you. We had Lou Nolan on with us just a couple of weeks ago, the great voice of the Flyers,
wonderful
voice of
PA announcer.
Yeah.
Good friend.
And I asked Lou this. I'll ask you the same. What is it like to be the guy who can control the energy in the stadium? Your booming voice, your excitement as each batter comes to the plate and all that. You can control 45, 50,000 people's excitement. How do you get motivated for that?
I love the Phillies so much. And I, that's when I think of all the nice things that have happened to me. Of course, I have to start with my own family, my wife, Kathy, and my children, Darren and Courtney, and now my daughter-in-law, my son-in-law, a couple of grandchildren. So on a personal level, and the family into which I was born, my mom and dad and all that. And again, the schools that I attended are the friends that we have. But my goodness, working at the ballpark, what joy. And as far as controlling the atmosphere, it's not just me and other sports and or other arenas and stadiums and ballparks. We have a great entertainment team at Citizens Bank Park, led by my supervisor, Mark DiNardo. And I think Fanavision has like 50 employees, not every night, but there may be 30 or more each night. Now we have an entertainment staff, our promotions department that sets up all, the Phillies Wall of Fame weekend. How about the Cole Hamels retirement night just a couple of weeks ago?
I was there. Yeah.
What a great event. People love that. And man, do I get a kick out of that when, some of the greatest Phillies of all time come back, to help Cole celebrate. And with the passing of the late, great Harry Callis in 2009, Harry used to MC the Phillies Wall of Fame festivities. But I'm so sad to lose him. What a great, great talent. One of the great TV and radio play-by-play baseball voices ever. But with Harry's passing, I have emceed the Phillies Wall of Fame festivities since 2009. And, what a great honor to introduce Steve Carlton and Mike Schmidt and Larry Boa and Greg Luzinski and Dick Allen and, all the greats. If you're a Phillies fan and to be in that environment, you can't help but get excited. It's just.
Hey, Dan, we have just a couple of minutes left. I want to hit with one more question from me, and then I'll give Bill the last question. You've received several accolades over the years, including Big Five Hall of Fame, 1997, the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame in 2012. What do those things mean to you?
I'm very flattered that I've been recognized by a number of organizations. And again, it's just a bonus. I mean, if I never got an award, just the joy of being at the games, doing the games, that's a bigger reward than one could ever hope for.
That's awesome. Dan, one final question for you for the younger people that are watching who might not know. You as Chet said, you've been recognized by organizations, but you spend an awful lot of time with the Big Five and with the Eagles. Can you give a quick rundown on that?
Well, I did the Eagles public address announcing for 29 years, from 1985 through 2000 up till 2014, and I love doing football too. And I did 13 Army Navy football games. Yep. I did every one that was played at Lincoln Financial Field up until last year, when the city again invited me to do the PA, but I gratefully but politely declined, because I don't do that much football anymore. And I didn't want to go in there unpracticed and do a less than outstanding job. In baseball, I just do so many games. I'm in good practice. Oh, yeah. But of course, the Eagles decided to go in another direction following the 2013 season, which they have every right to do. I think all of us know that are lucky enough to work in TV or radio or sports and entertainment, that we serve at the pleasure of ownership and management. And, a lot of decisions are not performance based. There could be marketing. It could be a new director, a new whatever. And they like to make some changes. And so if you're privileged enough to have a chance to do this, I'd say, enjoy every minute. You never know how long it's going to last. With the Big Five, what a great college tradition. And I'm so glad that they include Drexel now.
And you're still doing the games for Drexel, aren't you? Are you still playing?
No. I did Big Five basketball, radio and TV play-by-play, mostly radio, from 1977 until 1998. And 1 year it overlapped. I did Drexel radio play-by-play from 1997 to 2012. And then after I retired from Drexel in 2012, I would come back for 5-6 years, and I would do a handful of men's and women's basketball games at the DAC. I love doing that too. And at one time I did the WWF. I was I think I only ever did 2 or 3 matches down at the old Channel 48 studios at 3201 South 26th Street in Philadelphia. I introduced Bruno Sammartino.
Nice.
Loved Bruno.
He was a champion.
Fantastic. Well, Dan, we are out of time, and as always, we appreciate you taking time to join us, and we appreciate you, and we're rooting for that 8 more years for sure.
Oh, thank you. Me too. Jim Chet Chesko and Bill Furman, Philly Pressbox Radio.
There it is.
Fantastic. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. We'll talk to you again.
All right.
Good luck.
Thank you. You too. Oh, man. Dan is always great. And, man, what a gentleman.
Yeah, he's the best. It's become an annual tradition. We hope we can keep it going for another 8 or more years.
That's right. All right. Hey, let's give a shout out to all the shows at the Edge of Philly Sports Network this week. The gang, as always, has all the bases covered. You can catch all the action on www.eopsports.com, as well as Edge of Philly Sports on YouTube. You can find our show on the Philly Pressbox Radio YouTube channel. Help us out. Hit those subscribe, follow, and like buttons. And as always, share with your family and friends. Don't forget, subscribe to the Edge of Philly Sports Weekly newsletter. Sign up for free. you'll receive the EOP weekly review in your email every Friday morning. Don't forget, Chet, new morning show been going on AM, trending in the AM with Phil Stiefel. It's been going on, maybe now a month or two?
Yeah,
and,
at least a month.
It's going, picking up momentum, going great. And join Phil every morning, Monday through Friday. And tell you what, it's a tough job, Chet. He does that thing pretty much by himself every week or every day. And that's not easy.
I don't know how he does it. I believe he has a special 4th of July show at 9 a.m. and he's invited all the rest of the EOP crew to hop on whenever. So, maybe I'll get my morning coffee and hop on with Phil tomorrow. Who knows?
Well, there you go. You're retired. You can do what you want.
I got time. Absolutely.
Hey, tell us what's going on at the Irish Rover Station House this 4th of July week, since you got time.
Well, I'll tell you this. They are closed for the 4th of July, Thursday, so don't go there then. They're giving the staff a well-deserved day off. But otherwise, always plenty happening there. The Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne has Quizzo and Martini specials every Wednesday evening. They recently started having seafood platter dinners every Tuesday. That's $19.95, a real nice platter. And, of course, the Rover always has happy hour specials, a terrific wait staff, and 24 beers on tap. And they have another one of those fabulous paint and sip events on the calendar this month, Tuesday, July 30th. Be sure to register in advance. That's always a good time. The Irish Rover Station House is on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. Check the website, irishroverstationhouse.com. Ray.
Hi, this is Ray Dinger, and it is always fun to talk sports with these two guys, Bill and Chet, on Philly Pressbox Radio.
Yes, sir, Ray Diddy. Hey, Chet, the NBA draft is over. Free agency is in full swing. The Sixers have a new look, starting with the big fish they were after in Paul George. They parted ways with that Tobias Harris. I'm sure that breaks your heart. Got a couple draft picks that they seem to like, and they re-upped Tyrese Maxey with a max deal. What do you think? How do you feel this week compared to last week?
In all honesty, I feel a lot better. I mean, Daryl Morey's been heavily criticized, probably justly so, for the last few years, but I think he did the best he could possibly do here. They got a guy in the draft who has some potential at number 16. They also got the top free agent really on the market because, LeBron wasn't going anywhere. Not that I don't think anybody really wanted him that much. But Paul George, despite being a little bit older, 34, still can shoot. He still will give you 20 to 23 points a game. The rebounds and assists were down a little bit this year, but when healthy, which is a key phrase with any 76er that we talk about, Paul George is still a guy who can play. And he gives the Sixers a real good big three now, in him, Embiid, and Tyrese Maxey. So, yeah, I'm a little more optimistic than I was last week. If you're going to keep Embiid and build around him, I think this is the best they could have possibly done last week.
So I saw a post of a potential lineup that's Maxey, McCain, the number one pick, Paul George, Kelly Oubre, and Joel Embiid as your starters. Well, you have McCain
on the bench, Eric Gordon
starting, in there.
Either way,
Drummond, as you said. We've got
Paul Reed still on the roster. That could change.
Reed. And you don't have Bona on there. I don't know if he's going to make the squad or what. Second
rounder. And Ricky Council IV is also perhaps in the mix. He showed some flashes in his brief playing time last year. So, they're still building the roster. There'll be one or two other additions, at least, of course. You got to have, at least 12 guys on the roster. But the big one was Paul George. And, he's got some shortcomings. He hasn't always had great playoff campaigns, but I think it is a good fit. From what all the experts say, he is a good fit with Embiid and Maxey. So time will tell, Bill.
Yeah, it will. And it had to be better than last year. I think, it just last year's roster just wasn't going to get it done. Obviously they recognized that and they tried to give it somewhat of an overhaul, but locking Maxey in is huge as well. And Hey, what about those Boston Celtics, Chet? I hate to bring them up, but they're really good. Their salaries now for their starting five is at $900 million for five.
We talk about the money every week now, and it's just crazy, these numbers that are out there. And speaking of numbers, Bill, let me show you this. I don't know if you saw this. This is from FanDuel on Monday. The odds to win the NBA championship next year, the Sixers are third behind the Celtics and Nuggets. Hard to believe, Harry, but
yeah, it is, Harry. No,
plus
no
850. You bet $10, you win 85 or 95 total, including your $10. They're tied for third with the Oklahoma City Thunder, ahead of the Knicks, ahead of the Mavericks, who are just in the finals. It's crazy. I don't know. I think that's a little too optimistic, but the odds makers seem to think that, if these guys can click together, that the Sixers could be a legitimate contender.
I wonder if that was before. Well, that was before Klay Thomas decided to go to Dallas as well, which only makes them better.
True, yeah.
Too. So that changes that. I think that's probably a little bit too optimistic at this point. But it, as always, it all depends on Embiid and what you get out of him, and if you can get a healthy regular season and get through the playoffs. That's not going to change.
In a perfect world, Embiid plays 65 games. And Paul George plays 65 games, not always the same ones, but, that way they're getting 17 games off during the regular season. Embiid's going to miss at least a dozen games. Come on. But, keep them healthy going into the playoffs. And, you can't really criticize Embiid too much for his postseason this time around. He averaged 32 and 12 or whatever in the postseason. He had that 150-point game. So if he can go in there healthy, I think he can put up some good numbers. And then you have the second option in George and Tyrese Maxey, who should be even better than he was this year. So he's going to continue to develop. And they brought Kelly Oubre back too.
Yeah, I am too. And I'm going to say the same thing I think I've said for the last 10 years, or at least the last 5 or 6 that they've been vying for the playoffs.
Right.
They have to have it together for the last third of the season and play as a unit going into the playoffs. Every year we're helter-skelter going down the stretch and throwing bodies in because somebody's hurt or somebody's getting a night off or whatever. You have to have continuity going down the stretch, and they have not had that for as long as we can remember.
Yeah, I know. And it's going to be another situation kind of like last year when everybody's going to say, even if they're playing great in November, December, January, it doesn't matter, show me what you're going to do in the postseason. And it worked out the way a lot of us feared, an early elimination. There were injuries and they weren't at full strength, and they didn't even make it to the second round this past season. They were eliminated in the first round. So unfortunately, we're going to watch 82 games, and no matter how well they play, it's just going to be, hey, talk to me in April and May.
That's right. Well, and it'll be interesting to see if there's still another deal in the making. If they need some shooters. Yeah,
they need some bodies. But the kid McLean is apparently a pretty good shooter, and Paul George can still shoot, certainly. So we'll see what happens. But you got to give them a chance and hope and pray for good health.
Well, they didn't sit on their hands. We'll give them that. They went out and tried to make something happen. Hopefully, they pushed the right buttons. From where they were. So we'll give them that. We'll see. It's going to be Nick Nurse's challenge to put this thing together and make it happen and save Daryl Morey's job.
Sounds like PJ's optimistic.
Yeah.
Moser Sixers will be better. So that, we'll see. Long way off.
That's right. Hey, speaking of not long way off, but official now, the Flyers have signed Matvei Michkov. We said that was going to happen. It has now happened. We'll see how this plays out with him and the opening day roster. Just 19 years old. They also moved on from Cam Atkinson. But otherwise, it's been pretty quiet on that free agent market so far. They did sign Bobby Brink here just this afternoon. He was one of 2 targets that they needed to get done. They got him done on a 2-year deal. I don't think there's going to be much movement. I think pretty much what you're seeing here, unless they manage to throw a small trade together, I think what you got is what you got.
And, of course, we had the draft last Friday and Saturday. Jet Luchenko taken, I think he's not quite 18. I think he turns 18 in August. So a lot of upside with him, hopefully. As far as the rest of the draft, well, they're not getting good grades from most people. I saw a whole bunch of different grades. In fact, let me put it up right now. Flow Hockey, the Hockey Writers, the New York Times Athletic all gave them C+. Philly Hockey Now gave them a C. Yardbarker a C. Bleacher Report a D+. So, boy, a lot of folks not real thrilled with what the Flyers did here, saying, yeah, they added some offense, but a lot of these guys are question marks. So, you and I don't watch these guys, the second, third, and fourth rounders. A lot of people, though, did like Spencer Gill, that second of the 2 second-round picks as far as a defenseman. So we'll see, but I'm kind of surprised that the grades were not that good from some of the experts.
Well, a couple things. One is let's hear what Bill Meltzer has to say, because Bill will know, and he's my resident go-to expert when it comes to Flyers hockey and the draft. So we'll talk to Bill about that whenever we get him back on. But the one thing that I heard a lot about was the Flyers drafted for position depth within the system. They were short on centermen throughout their system. So they maybe didn't take the best player in Jet, but they took the best center at the time that that pick was up, and they came right back and got Berglund, another center. So they took 3 out of their first 4 picks because they had to build some position depth within the organization. So, yeah, maybe as this analysis says right there, I was looking at it real quick while you were going on, not enough in the pipeline that will immediately make a difference. And I think Danny Briere knew that with the picks that he made, but he's trying to build an organization. And he already said, we were ahead of the curve last year. Don't be too overexcited yet.
And if I'm not mistaken, they have next year 3 first-round picks and 3 second-round picks.
Right,
so,
they did that with trades.
Yeah, that'll be a key for them next year at this time, getting it right.
And getting Mitchkoff in and get him under John Tortorella, who Danny Briere says that he will be coached up just like every other player that's ever come through Tortorella's system, and he will be taught how to play the game right. So that's going to be fun to watch. Just 19 years old, and but it sounds like everybody associated with the Flyers is really excited to have him on board.
Yeah, absolutely. So that'll be fun to watch, even if they're not going to be a cup contender. Watching this kid develop will be fun.
Yes, it will, and just make the playoffs. I just want them to make
Please.
the playoffs. Let's get started. All right. Hey, a bunch of great events happening with Philly teams this summer and fall. What's going on with the best tailgaters in Philadelphia? Bob Cavanaugh and the gang at Cavs Philly Tailgates.
I knew you were referring to Cav. Yeah, Bob Cavanaugh and company, cooking up a terrific catering business for some 35 years now, known best for their tailgate parties. Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgate's Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. There's Cav. He also does corporate events and parties, you name it. Check the website, phillytailgates.com is what it is. phillytailgates.com for pricing and more info. And if you have questions, you can email them at cavscatering@verizon.net. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go. Also the Cav works with Vince at Philly Sports Trips, and they've got a lot going on these days. Philly Sports Trips, the folks you deal with for all the Eagles road games, including the trip to Brazil, which is technically a home game. There's that October trip to Los Angeles for the Penn State USC football contest. Vince and Cav are already finalizing plans for next spring's Phillies spring training trips to Clearwater, too. Check out all of that at phillysportstrips.com.
Yes, sir. Chet.
Yeah.
We are exactly 3 weeks from the Eagles' first full squad practice, July 24th. Man, are you excited about getting football started and what this team will look like with new coordinators on both sides of the ball? It is time. It's July. It'll be here before you know it.
I'm not excited yet. I got to be honest, because we just had, the Flyers and Sixers drafts. I was focusing on those and then the free agent stuff. And the Phillies are the best team in baseball. So the Eagles, for one of those rare occasions, are kind of on the back burner with the Philly sports scene for me. But come, maybe 3 weeks from now when training camp officially opens and then they start getting into the preseason games, I will be getting more excited. And then the focus will be on, how's Jalen looking? Is everybody on the same page? Are the new coordinators gelling with the offense and the defense? So I'm not quite there yet, Bill, but talk to me, the end of July, maybe then.
All right. Well, we'll be keeping an eye on it. I got to ask you, did you happen to watch last night was the opening episode of Hard Knocks Offseason New York Giants. Did you watch that by chance?
I did not. I know they talked a bit about it on the radio today on WIP when I tuned in, but I didn't get to watch it. Did you catch any of it?
I did. I watched it today, actually. If you get a chance, if anybody gets a chance, try to watch that. It's really interesting, I think, because there's 8-10 guys in a room talking about running backs and talking about Saquon Barkley and talking about whether to deal them, whether to let them go. And it was painful. It was painful watching 8 or 10 grown men have to make such a difficult decision on the future of their franchise. It was good TV to watch. Of course, we got them. A.J. Brown, he didn't like the show because they badmouthed Saquon. AJ says Saquon's putting up 300 against the Giants. He's already out and about that. But it was a business decision they came down to, and it was excruciating to watch these grown men have to make this decision as a group. And I can tell you, they weren't happy to do it. They just felt like at the end of the day, it was the best thing for their organization. And check it out if you get a chance. It's a short episode, only like 40 minutes this time for the opener.
Watch that.
Yeah, check it out.
By the way, the Eagles' regular season opens in 65 days from today. So we'll give Lane Johnson a little shout out here. That is 9 weeks and 2 days from today, that first Friday in September, Bill. We'll be watching regular season Eagles football live from Brazil.
There you go. Can't wait for that. Hey, we had great guests tonight in Dan Baker. Who's coming to Philly Pressbox Radio next week, Chet?
Well, Bill, let me see if I can find the picture of our guest for next week. Again, I got it. As we discussed earlier, the Sixers started filling out their roster over the past week with a couple of draft picks, free agent signings of Paul George, Andre Drummond, and Eric Gordon, with more to come still. What does it all mean for the franchise going forward? That is the question. Well, we're going to get some insight from someone who's been reporting on the Sixers for some 27 years now and a frequent visitor to our show. You know her from 97.5 The Fanatic and elsewhere, the great Dee Lynam, joining us next week. If all goes well, she will be live next week at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We may or may not have a second guest. We shall see, Bill.
All right. Always great to talk to Dee, and she will be on top of her game as she always is.
I'm in my new home studio, Bill, here. It looks a lot like my old studio, but I set it up kind of similarly, and I somehow misplaced my bell. But before we continue, Bill, I'm going to do a little ding, 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 random chat.
No, false bell.
I'm still kind of reorganizing everything here. You
didn't mix it in with your T-shirts, did you?
Well, speaking of which, Bill, here's my random chat. So as most of my friends and friends of this show know, I very recently retired from my real job, my full-time job, which for the past 6 years was doing business news for Compass Media Networks. My last actual workday was nearly 2 weeks ago, but my final day officially with Compass was June 30th, Sunday, my last day on the payroll. And as many people spotted on Facebook the other day, I spent my first real day as a retiree doing a little closet cleaning, going through my hundreds of T-shirts. I did get rid of at least 30 of them, and then I put a big stack of them, ones that I rarely wear but couldn't bear to part with, in another bedroom. As for the other 110 or so of them, well, that was the picture I posted on Facebook, and it got way more reaction than I would have expected. And yes, those 110 or so shirts were put in there with some sort of organization. As I put up a second picture, I've added digitally the what's what shirts are where to help me find them a little more quickly. Pile one, long sleeve and tank top sports. The second pile, Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers tees. Then Eagles, Penn State, and Philly Pressbox Radio tees. On the bottom shelf, various tank tops and tees. Then in the middle on the bottom, WMMR and other band and music tees. And finally, horror and beer tees. Yeah, I do have a lot of them. Later this week, maybe I'll get to work on the button-down shirts and polo shirts that are hanging in my closet. And then maybe, who knows, the socks and underwear drawer. When going through the T-shirts, I discovered a shirt that I got somewhere, somehow, 33 or 34 years ago. No idea where I got it, but I know the age of it because I looked at all of the names on the shirt right here. And it is a shirt of Jim Lynam's 1990-91 Philadelphia 76ers. Names including assistant coach Fred Carter, center Mike Jaminski, guards Johnny Dawkins and Hersey Hawkins, forward Rick Mahorn, and of course the great Charles Barkley. Other replica autographs, no, they weren't actual signatures, unfortunately, included Manute Bol, Ron Anderson, Ricky Green, and deep bench guys like Brian Oliver and, Kenny Payne. What a bust he was. That Sixers team, by the way, went 44-38, made the playoffs, and got eliminated in, you guessed it, the second round. Yeah, that's happened a lot over the years, apparently. I never once wore that shirt, and you know what? I never wore this one either. Farrah Fawcett. I've had this since 1976, believe it or not. I think I did actually put it on one time way back when, but never actually wore it out in public. Well, that is my T-shirt house cleaning story. I'll get to wear more tees now that I'm officially retired.
Well, Chet, I had to say, I'm glad you threw up the Farrah Fawcett tee because I had this vision in my head of you in tank top shirts. There you go. That's a much better vision than you in Muscle Beach shirts of some sort.
It's a medium, by the way, Bill. I don't fit in mediums anymore.
Oh, my goodness gracious. But you gave me this vision with the tank tops. Then you went to the underwear drawer. I was losing it a little bit. But thanks for clearing that all up at the end with Farrah.
I do have a lot of tank tops, though, that I wear in the summertime, Bill. Hey, come on. You got to show off these guns, right?
Well, that was my point.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, let's talk a little more Phillies while we have a couple minutes.
Right.
Michael Mercado, as we talked about earlier, throws a gem last night. Bullpen was good until the ninth inning. They tried to make it a little bit interesting, but that lineup last night, and it's even a little different again tonight. Man, Marsh is not playing. It's what they got. What's the bottom of that lineup tonight? Soto.
I didn't see it.
It's got Soto, Rojas, Pache. They're playing left and center. Turner's the DH. Bohm's the first baseman. It's all over the place. So I don't know. Need to pull one out tonight with Zach Wheeler on the hill against a pretty good pitcher.
Yeah, their ace as well, as Dan Baker mentioned. So they need a big effort from Zach Wheeler again. Cubs have been kind of reeling a bit lately. So, hopefully Phillies bats have woken up a little bit. Trey Turner's been on fire. Nick Castellanos had the great week last week. This is not a wine glass. No, this is actually iced tea, by the way. Diet peach iced tea. So there you go. It's true.
Jane, wouldn't we know it would be Diet Peach, for God's sake?
It's my wife's drink of choice. I would not go with the diet, but I do like the peach iced tea, the full strength, but she always gets the diet. So I suck it up. And to be honest, I could use a little dieting myself.
Hey, I wanted to throw at you. I'm going to read this. Brian Spader posted this because we talked about Trey Turner and the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Of course, he had a huge game last night with a couple home runs. Listen to these numbers, Chet. Turner is batting .336. He's slashing .336, .386, .569. 87 runs, 145 hits, 33 doubles, 1 triple, 22 home runs, 61 RBIs, and 23 stolen bases in 106 games since Jack Fritz alone saved his career.
That's funny.
336.
I mean, he was very good the end of last season after the Jack Fritz thing, and he's certainly playing very well this season, other than the time he was out injured. So despite missing 6 weeks, he is certainly a legitimate all-star candidate. Trey's been great.
Well, and if you throw another 60 games, 50, 60 games on these numbers, these are serious numbers. But for those that don't know, explain the whole Jack Fritz thing if people are wondering why we're connecting these dots.
Well, Jack is the one who kind of urged the Philly fans last year in July to give Trey Turner a standing ovation, even though he was struggling. And it kind of caught on, and he was great ever since he got that standing O on that Friday night. He was on fire. I mean, for the next few weeks, he was hitting over 400, and he had a very good remainder of the season. So, yeah, our pal Jack Fritz gets a lot of credit for turning things around for Trey Turner.
Yeah, and the last I looked at the voting last night, Trey's got a chance to make this All-Star team, even with his missing 6 weeks. We'll see. Alec Boehm's certainly going to be in. I think the voting ends tonight, right?
Yeah, it ends tonight.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Boehm is pretty much locked in based on the numbers. I would think Bryce will be there, assuming he's healthy. And Harper and Schwarber both are eligible to come back July 9th, which is next Tuesday, and both could be back, and JT shortly after that. You know, some people think you should keep Harper out till the All-Star game, which is the following Tuesday. But if they're ready to play, bring them all back.
Yeah, and especially if they're playing the Dodgers and they can play and
right.
And by the way, we mentioned this in the opening. They're in Chicago now. They go to Atlanta for the weekend. Then the Dodgers come to Citizens Bank Park next week. So,
yeah, if you can see the schedule down the left-hand corner, as you said, big series against the Braves down in the ATL this weekend. And after an off day Monday, it is indeed the Dodgers in town for 3 before the A's come in right before the All-Star break. And that Dodgers series is huge. I mean, it could be an NLCS preview. You never know.
Right. And as you look at the end of the month, when they have the Indians and the Yankees who are both playing good.
Yeah.
And then they go on that long road trip, which has always been tough for years, going out west. Seattle, the Dodgers, and the Angels. It's a big time here over the next 6 weeks of how this club's going to go.
Boy, Seattle. I don't remember them playing in Seattle in quite a while, so that'll be fun to watch.
Right? Yep. All right. What else you got? Anything?
Well, a couple of other things. First of all, condolences to my pal Denny. He lost his niece in a tragic car accident the other night. Very much a shame. I think she was 41, he said. And she has a 13-year-old daughter. So that's, just a shame for the entire family. The baseball world mourning the loss of Orlando Cepeda, Bill. I know you were a fan of him from way back when.
Yep.
Got a picture of him somewhere, but we remember him mostly, I guess, with the Cardinals. But he also spent time with the Giants before that. I think he played even longer with the Giants before going to the Cardinals. And he finished up with the Braves and somebody else after that. But real good first baseman, a pretty good slugger, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's a Hall of Famer. And it was actually in the lineup with Mays, McCovey, and Cepeda all at the same time back in the day. And he had some problems. That took him getting in with the finally got in the Hall of Fame through the Veterans Committee, but he had some problems along the way. But he was a fine player.
So when he was in the lineup with McCovey, did Cepeda play the outfield?
Yeah, I believe he did.
Okay.
Yep.
And speaking of legends that we lost, Martin Mull. Bill, I mentioned this because he was one of my favorites because back in the day, he was on Mary Hartman, which then led to a spinoff, Fernwood Tonight, which became America Tonight. And over the years, he was in the movie Clue. He was in Roseanne, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, lots of other great shows and some fun movies along the way. Ironically, one of the last TV series that he was in, I think he did 2 episodes, was on a show last year, a sitcom on ABC called Not Dead Yet. Well, unfortunately, Martin has now passed. Funny man and one of my favorites. So rest in peace, Martin Mull.
Yes, sir. Hey, Chet, Scott isn't on board with the Phillies. What do you think? The meltdown starts tonight, and they will miss out on the playoffs. You think maybe Scott's just a hater? What do you think?
He's a hater or a troll because there's no basis in that argument. I mean, I've seen some other people on Facebook say, oh, yeah, now these guys are out, they're going to start losing. Well, remember a couple of years ago when Harper was out for that extended period? They went like 35-17 or something without Harper in the lineup. And right now, other guys are just sucking it up. I don't like what he said, and I don't think he's right. So I think the Phillies are going to win 103 or more games and will absolutely win the division.
I'm with you.
Wrap it
All
up.
right. Anything else? Okay, let's wrap it up. Let's thank
it up.
tonight's special guest, Dan Baker, our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgates at PPCC 118 Raz Room. For Jim, Chet, Chesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll join Philly Press Box Radio next Wednesday, July the 10th at 7 p.m. You can see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel, and listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans, and let's go Phillies.
High hopes.